Alright guys, welcome to the Creative Diet. It's still the Apex Man here. Our graphic design retreat continues. Alright, so this particular topic we are going to be looking at font pairing. This is typography class 3 and we're going to be looking at font pairing. Alright, so one of the basic difficulties that beginners in graphic design face is how to choose fonts, how to select fonts, how to compare or pair fonts, which font should I use, how do I go about working with type. Okay, so I'm going to try to address that in today's class. Okay, so we're going to be looking at font pairing. All right, font pairing. So basically what font pairing is basically trying to address is um how to combine fonts. We're going to be looking at the steps to take in combining or choosing fonts for your design project. Okay, so now step one, combine serif combine serif with sans serif typefaces. All right, so that's the first step in the rule or first rule in font pairing. Combine serif with sans serif um, typefaces. Okay, so now what does this mean? What does this mean? Now what this basically is trying to achieve is that you know sans serif fonts are different from serif fonts, and for those of us who may have forgotten what the difference is between sans serif and serif fonts, let me just juggle your mind a bit. All right, so this is on the left side of my screen we have a serif font, on the right we have a sans serif font. All right, a serif font typically has these protrusions. All right, these protrusions at the ending, these protrusions here at the endings, at the bottoms, at the tips of the text shape. All right, it has what we call fit-like structures, which we call serif. All right, at the endings, while a sans serif font does not have those protrusions at the endings. Okay, so that's what basically a sans serif and serif font is. And if you remember very clearly, before we went in depth to describe these major font families. Okay, so what we are basically going to be doing, what we basically do in one of the first basic rules is to combine a serif font with a sans serif font. Okay, now when you do that, this creates some form of contrast, and I'll explain what this does. Okay, now take for instance, let me delete this. Take for instance, I write something like this. Okay, let me say for example, I type something like let's see. If I type something like this, okay, and okay, sorry, I have a typographical error here. If I type something like this, and then I make this a sans serif header, okay, and then I put this here at the bottom, say for example. Okay, so take for instance, now this is a paragraph. This is what we call a paragraph text in CorelDRAW. Now this is the body, and then this at the top here is the header. Now take for instance, this is just for the purpose of example, so pardon me if I do not make this. So I just want to show you how placing or combining sans serif and serif fonts together can look very good. Let's take a sans serif font like Metropolis for instance. Alright, so you see how this looks, kind of how this fits together. Alright, or rather than do this, let me make it look, let me make it look. Okay, so you see this here that I've just done. I've typed this subtext at the bottom of this, and then I'll make this Metropolis. Okay, you see how, watch how this font, there's, if you look very carefully, you see that there is a form of, there's some form of harmony here. Okay, so this is a good way to combine, a sans serif font at the bottom and then having a serif font header. Okay, this is one way. All right, so you can also see, this is a header and then this is the sub font. All right, so here also have a body font style, which is a sans serif font style, and then a serif font style as the header. All right, so this is just one way, of combining a sans serif and a serif font. Okay, so you can, combine these two together in your designs. But one thing you need to take note of when combining these two is that, you have to be very, very careful in such a way that you don't combine fonts which have fonts which will communicate a psychology that you do not want to communicate. All right, take for instance, you can see that this font here, which I've chosen as my header style, all right, is a serif font style that's, that depicts strength, that depicts luxury, that depicts power, excellence, royalty. And if you know anything about the Benin Kingdom, you know that it's a city of the royals. All right, so you see that this font style I've chosen here is a royalty type of font. All right, and this font here, that which I've chosen as a sub font or a body font, all right, is also kind of corroborating that. You can see it's a smooth sans serif style. Okay, so you see that, the font psychology, of the sans serif and the serif font style is aligning together. So this is one of the steps or one of the ways of font pairing. All right, so, or one of the ways you can, choose fonts that come from varying styles or that come from opposite font styles, okay, or contrasting font families. Okay, but when choosing fonts that come from contrasting font families, make sure that the font agrees together in what you want to use it for. All right, so that's the first step for combining fonts. Okay, now another important step is that do not use double script fonts. You see these styles here, decorative, decorative black letter and script. Do not use these font families, okay, in a double fold. Like what I'm trying to say is, for instance, going back now, this is step 2 or important step now. For instance, I come and I change this to say Sigra. Okay, for instance, and I come here now to my body font and then choose a font like Old English. You see how this looks now. Though it's a Gothic style, but if you are intending to print, okay, do not do this. Do not do this, especially if you are intending to print, okay, or if it's for a billboard or something that is meant to be in print or readable form. All right, do not do this. All right, it's one of the it's a way of causing um, a legibility mistake in your design. All right, so also, for example, using a font like, say, brush script, for example, when you combine a decorative script, so if you combine a font like a decorative font script, all right, a decorative font script with with a script. Sorry, if you combine a decorative font with a script font, okay, that's one way of breaking the rule of font pairing. Do not use a double pair of script and decorative fonts. Okay, it's not visually pleasing. Okay, it's not visually pleasing for you to do that. All right, so this is one of the rules. Okay, combining or combining a decorative script with a um, um, with a black letter font. Okay, like you see now, this is decorative script here, this is script font style, and then the header now is now a decorative black letter font style. Okay, so this is double pairing or double decorative font. Please do not do this, okay, when you are trying to pair fonts together. All right, so take note of this important rule in font pairing. All right, next, um okay next, use one font family with broad variety of font members. Now, this is one way to make your font pairing very easy. All right, this is one of the steps of my font pairing that I make use of very frequently. Okay, I make use of this type of font use um, um, very frequently in my designs. Okay, now what I do is that I make use of a font family that has a broad variety of members. Okay, I choose a typeface that has a broad variety of members. This is a very important way of combining or making use of fonts, especially when you are a brand designer, when you are a brand identity or visual identity developer like myself. Is one of the important ways of maintaining visual consistency in your designs, or maintaining maintaining the brand voice. Okay, it's one of the ways to maintain the brand identity. Choosing a font or choosing a typeface that has a broad variety of members. Okay, now I'll show you this example. Now you can see in this design right here, I didn't make use of too many font styles. I just used one font member, or sorry, one font style, or rather one typeface rather, in this design. Okay, I made use of one font style in this. I made use of one font family in this design. Okay, you can see here that the top font here, wondering why your advert on social media don't hit the target. You can see here that the font style here is italicized, while the font style at the top here is the regular font style. Now, the type of font I use in this design is called stem. Now I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. Let me bring out the font members. Okay, so you can see here stem. If I type in stem on my system, you can see here I have bold, extra light, regular, bold, italic, stem, extra light, italic, stem, italic. So you can see that there are various members of this same font. Okay, light italic, medium italic. So this is a good way of maintaining or using fonts in your design. Okay, or using type in your design. All right, so making use of a font that has varying members will help you make use of, or will help you have designs that have good visual typography. Okay, now if for example I type this now. Let me just show you how I was able to achieve this. Wondering why your your adverts your adverts on social media. Let me change the colors so you can see. Not going to finish typing this for the sake of time. So if I should go up, you see I have stem regular here. All right. Now if I type target, you see that I used stem bold italic for this. So you see how the font style blends very well. Now you will notice that for big brands like MTN, for example, MTN using the font style called Brighter Sounds. I think it's Brighter Sounds they use. That's their brand font. You notice that their font style is very, very consistent. It hasn't changed, even though they did a rebrand recently. They changed their logo style. The font style remained the same. And you notice that their font style is very, very consistent. If you check the big brands, like Glow, for instance, those telecommunication brands, you notice that their font styles are usually very consistent. It doesn't change much. It doesn't change. It doesn't change. So the reason why their font style, is able to remain consistent like that, and you notice that their font styles, even though they are varying looks that it may have across the designs that they are trying, or across the various ads that they design and they put up on their platforms. Okay, the font styles are usually the same. Okay, the fonts that they use is usually the same, and the technique that they are applying is this technique. Okay, making use of fonts that belong to the same family. Okay, just like I did in this design. Okay, making use of fonts that belong to the same family. That's what I did in this design, and it's a very cool way, a very easy way, it's a cheap way, okay, of making use of good typography. All right. So the key point here is know what aspects of the text to make bold, know what aspects of the text to italicize, know what aspects of the text should be regular, should have a regular look. Okay, now there's a very simple rule for that. What aspects, and the rule for this is to answer this question in your mind when you are designing with type. What aspects of the typography do you want to impress on the mind of the viewers? What aspects of the content or the design messaging in the typography, what aspect do you want to place emphasis on? Falling back now to the principle of hierarchy. You see how every design project has to go in the direction of the principles. Okay, so if you do not have a good understanding of the principles in design, you will not be able to apply those same principles to your typography so that you'll be able to achieve good design with type. Okay, so answer these questions in your mind when you want to use fonts belonging to the same font family. What aspects of the type do you want, or of the content do you want to lay emphasis on? Like, for example, in this text now, what I wanted to lay emphasis on was the word target, because obviously from the design concept you can see that there's a bullseye, there's a dartboard kind of here, there's a bullseye that I'm trying to there's a bullseye here, right? And there's an arrow or dart trying to hit the target, almost hitting the target, directly touch in front of the bullseye. So obviously the word target is my emphasis. All right, so I made that italicized and I made it bold. All right, and it's also bigger. So here also, have you heard of a sales landing page, sales stroke landing page? I also made that a bold type, while the have you heard of is in the regular font style. Okay, so this is a way to this is one of the steps or one of the techniques of font pairing. Okay, now also take note of something here. Take note of something here. Now there's a rule when making use of font members, when making use of different members of the same font family. Now, if you notice here, what I did was that I made use of a regular type, and then I made use of a font style that was um, um, far or there is a wide difference. I made use of a font style that has a wide difference between the regular from the first font that I chose from the members of the font family. Okay, now look at this. If I go to stem now, you see that. Okay, if I go to stem now, you see here regular. Now what I did was that I chose the next font member that was 2 steps ahead of the font style that I chose first. Take note of that rule. All right, always choose, especially for the sake of emphasis and hierarchy in design. When we are trying to follow the design principle of emphasis and hierarchy, choose the font members that are 2 steps from the first member that you chose. Okay, so you see here now, after choosing regular, you see that stem bold is 2 steps ahead. Okay, after choosing regular, stem bold is 2 steps ahead. So that's one way of pairing fonts from the same family. Okay, another font family that has a broad number of members is Nexa. So you can see here in Nexa font family, you can see Nexa Thin Extra Light, Nexa Thin Extra Light Italic, Nexa Light, Nexa Light Italic, Nexa Regular or Normal, Rexa Light, Rexa Bold, X Bold. You can see the different members here. Another font family that I use very frequently also is the Swiss font family, Swiss 721. Swiss 721. Okay, they have a condensed, bold condensed. You have condensed BT italics. Okay, you have even the extended. Okay, so you can see that when making use of these font families, they have a varying varying members. Okay, so you are able to have distinctive looks for certain aspects of your text. At the same time, you are still able to maintain consistency in the look of your text, and you are still able to maintain harmony. Now, looking at this design now, you see what I did here. Here, the Friday is in italics, while the Stay Strong is in bold. It's in a bold typeface. Okay, so this is one way you can combine font styles or maintain font harmony. All right, you see that there's a harmony. There's a kind of harmony in this design. Okay, in terms of the typography, you can see the leading lines here. The logo, the photo with the man pointing up, and it's pointing towards the text. All right, so see here, it's Friday. Stay strong, stay hopeful. See that the text here is the emphasis here. The emphasis here is on the Friday. It's bolder and it's in italics. All right. So you see how I'm able to select members of the same family. All right. So you see that here I chose the regular font style, and then I moved 2 steps ahead to select a bold font style, just like I showed you here. All right, coming to the stem, you see the bold. You see, let me activate the font style. Okay, so you see here the font members. While bold is at the top here, regular is 2 steps down. So you see, this is how I was able to follow the rule of font pairing. So this is one of the rules of font pairing. Okay, so here too I follow the same principle in this design here. All right, the font style that I was used here is Nexa. You can see here the trajectory of your business. The font style that I used, the font member that I used in Nexa for this is Nexa Extra Bold, while the subtext here was I did this using the normal Nexa normal, Nexa regular. Okay, so you see, this is one of the ways to combine or pair fonts together in your design. So if you do this in your design, your designs will come off looking professional and looking smooth. There will be a sense of harmony in your text. All right, so next step, this now should be step 4. Let me do a quick recap of the steps that I've let me quickly correct this to step 4. Let me make a recap of what we have done, the steps I've outlined so far. Number 1, make use or combine serif with sans serif typefaces, okay, to create a sense of contrast, to create a sense of agreement in your design. Okay, and I said that when you are making use or when you are selecting sans serif typefaces or combining sans serif typefaces with serif typefaces, make sure that there is an agreement, there's a psychological agreement in your font choices. Okay, make sure that there is an agreement. Make sure that the font psychology make sure that the font psychology, we have talked about font psychology in our previous class. All right, make sure that the serif and sans serif typefaces that you are choosing have a good psychology with your design concept. Okay, make sure that there is a good agreement. Okay, and also let one of the typefaces be prominent and the other be a sub font. Okay, now the other rule that I gave was the second step or the second rule in font pairing is avoid using double scripts. Okay, avoid using double scripts, okay, or double serif. Okay, when you are using double black letter font, like the example I gave, do not use double black letter or double decorative or double script font in your design. Okay, if you are doing that, you cause a confusion. Your designs will not have harmony. All right, so that was the second rule or second step I gave. Okay, now the third step I gave, which I just finished explaining, was use one font family with a broad variety of members. Okay, this was the third step. Okay, this was the third step. Okay, and I just explained that when using different members of the same family in the design project, skip 2 steps to choose the next member that you use for emphasis or for header or for bold, just so that there can be a good design progression in your text. Okay, so that they can be so that the emphasis can be more vivid in your text choices. Okay, now next step is use fonts that contrast, not clash. Now this is also related to that step 2, which I said was avoid using double scripts. Okay, using fonts that contrast, not clash. And this principle also is connected to step 1 and step 2. Step 1 I said make use of fonts that are either choose one, let one of the fonts be serif and the other font be sans serif. All right, and the purpose of that is to create contrast in your text. And remember, contrast is one of the basic principles of graphic design. Okay, this same step 4 is also connected to the step 2 rule, which I said is avoid using double scripts. Okay, avoid using double script or double decorative fonts in your design. Okay, now I will explain what this means. Using fonts that contrast and not clash. Okay, now what this means, now what this means is, take for instance, I have something like this. Um, Now look at this example I'm about to give. Using fonts that contrast. Now take for example, this is also connected to avoiding the rule. Sorry, avoiding using double decorative. Let me see if I can find. I don't know if I can find some examples of this sharp. Or let me see. Alright, so just looking at this now, you can see very clearly that there's no harmony, there's no agreement. This font pairing here does not look good. Alright, it doesn't look good. So you can see very clearly here that this font combination does not look good. Doesn't look good. Okay? Because there's the contrast here is not much. There's no effective contrast between these two. This is looking decorative and brush-like. This is also looking, the top is also looking decorative and brush-like. Alright, so there is no effective contrast in the typography. Okay, so but if I should make use of this for instance, and then I'll come at the bottom here and then choose a sans serif font like say STEM for instance. This also is not even looking so good in comparison. But if I should take something like this, if I should change this to say a condensed font like Babas, for example. Alright, I increase this and then I come here and then I make use of an extended font. I come here and I make use of an extended font. Good. Now you can see very clearly here that there is some form of harmony. Sorry. Rather, let me create a paragraph text here, so you see how this may come up. Alright, so you see how this looks. See how there is some form of harmony in this combination. Alright, you see how there is some form of harmony in this combination here. While this header here is looking condensed and bold, you can see here that the body text is compressed. Sorry, is extended. Right? You can see that the body text is extended and light. Okay, so you can see that there is some form of contrast. There is a harmony here. All right, there's a harmony here. But if you compare this, let's do something like this, so that you can understand the comparison much better. So that you understand the comparison a lot better, like this. But if I should change this, for instance, to a decorative font like this, or black letter font like that, and then do something like this, you can see that this doesn't, the harmony here is just clashing. There's no effective contrast here, it's clashing. So That's why this step says use fonts that contrast, not clash. Okay, now you can see here on the right side there is a clash between the black letter and the decorative font I'm choosing to use. Okay, but here there's a contrast. I'm using an extended, thin or light font as the body, while I'm using a compressed or condensed bold font as my header. So you see here that there is a harmony, there is an agreement here, right? So this is what I'm trying to explain in using fonts that contrast, not fonts that clash. Okay. Now another example here is, take for example, I choose to use say Times New Roman, and this I'm trying to let me explain something further. This does not just apply, using fonts that clash does not just apply to using decorative and black letter fonts or Gothic fonts together. Okay, for example, using serif fonts that clash too. If for example now I use Times New Roman, a bold Times New Roman font here, and then I now come here and then I now use for example, I now come here and I use let me see which, okay, and I come here and use you see how this is not looking so well. Alright, this is not looking so well. This is slab serif. Okay, using this, combining these two together is not looking so good. So you see that there is a clash here. But if I should change this to say Times New Roman, if I should make this Times New Roman, for example, sorry, I should make this Times New Roman, I make this bold, and then I come here and I remove the bold and make it light. You see that there's now some form of improvement and harmony. You see the contrast improves, right? The contrast improves. So this is the way, to avoid using fonts that clash and using fonts that contrast. Okay, I think that is step 4. All right, so now moving on to step 5. Pardon me for the mistake here. Moving on to step 5. Use fonts with similar X heights. Now, what does this mean? Now, what we refer to as X height? Now, let me explain what this means. Okay. Now, let me explain what this means. When we say X height, what we're actually trying to refer to is the space or the height of the letter X. That's the small letter case X. Okay, you can see here that the part labeled X height refers to the space between the baseline and the main line. Okay, now one of the ways to combine fonts appropriately, although this is not a this rule is not a very primary, it's not a very strong rule, but this is one of ways to know what kind of fonts to pair together. So here you can see here that we have on the left here Gotham and Times New Roman. Okay, both of these fonts have a similar or closely related X height values or X height comparison. Alright, so here you can see that although the X height for Gotham is slightly higher than the X height for Times New Roman, you can see that both of these fonts look similar, and you notice that one is a sans serif type while the other one is a serif type. So I have a serif type on my right and a sans serif type on my left. Alright, and both of them have a similar X height comparison. So this is one of the ways, this is one of the ways of combining or pairing font styles together. Okay, so take note of this. Take note of this. Alright. So another way you can see here good ways of combining fonts together. You can see Gill Sans and Avant-Garde. Okay, good ways of combining fonts together. You can combine these two together. Combine these two together to see how one can be used as the header and the other can be used as the body type font or sub font. Alright, so these are ways of combining. These are ways of combining fonts. Checking out for X height. Alright, you can see that the differences here are not so wide. Okay, differences are not so wide. Alright, step 6. For effective sizing, apply the golden ratio 1.618. Alright, so this is one of the technical ways of font pairing. Alright, one of the technical ways of font pairing. Now, the golden ratio is one of the most important ratios in mathematics, in design, in photography, in art. Basically, the golden ratio is one of the most important figures. All right, it's a good way of maintaining a good sequence in terms of your size, the size of your text. All right, so you can either multiply or divide by this ratio 1.618. all right, now I'll explain how to do that. All right, now take for instance, I'm trying to achieve, last time when we were doing okay, let me take this as the example. Let me take this as the example. Okay, now the size for my body text here is 24. All right, now what it applies to the golden ratio. The golden ratio is just saying that, okay, to get a good sequence, all right, a good sequence in your typography sizes, to achieve good hierarchy or emphasis, to have visually proportional, to achieve a visually proportional sizing in your typography, multiply or divide by the golden ratio. Now let's see how this works. Now I'll come and I'll open my calculator. Alright, so I'm going to say, okay, my type here is 24, right, for my body text. I'll come here and say 24 times 1.618. all right, 1.618, that's 38, right? And my body text here is 102. So let's see if I keep multiplying by a factor of 1.618, because I wasn't comfortable with if I should change this to 38 now. If I should change this to 38, you will see that the difference, the header size will not be so much. So I will not be so comfortable with that. See how small 38 is, but I'm not so comfortable with that. All right, and also one thing is that because this font style that I chose for my body text is a different font family entirely from this header font, which is Bebas. The way these fonts will interpret point size is different. Okay, 24 for is the point size 24 for Swiss 721 is different from the way Bebas will interpret point size 24. Okay, point size 24 for Bebas will be incredibly small, but point size 24 for Swiss 721 will be, this will look like this. Let's take a look. If I make this point size 24 now, you see that it will be incredibly small in comparison to this. Okay, so the way font style, the way different typefaces interpret point size is different. Okay, so you have to choose visual, you have to choose that which is suitable for each font style. But we just want to take a look at it, just want to experiment. Even I myself have not seen the result of this. I would like to see how this goes. Good. You see this now. You see how this looks now. 1.02, right? Is the header size. Now, if you look at this here, after multiplying by the golden ratio, you can see that if you round this figure off to a nearest whole number, what you will get is 102. Okay, so you see that this is visually close. It's close. It's kind of close. The figure is close to the figure that I have as the size for my text here. Okay, so this is one of the ways to get visually appealing font sizes, or pair your header and body fonts, or header and sub fonts together to be more visually appealing. Okay, so applying, if you are finding it difficult to get a good sizing visually, just apply the golden ratio. So you can see here, even because I'm an experienced designer, even without doing the calculation, I was able to get an accurate font style, or font size rather, in relation to my body font. When I applied the golden ratio rule here. So as I multiplied this my body font by this factor, the font size rather for my body font by this factor of 1.618, you can see that I was able to get something close to the header font that I used here, the size of the header font that I used here. Alright, so this is one of the ways of ensuring equal fonts, or ensuring good font pairing with designs. Alright, so let's move to the next point now, or rule of step 7. Okay, do not use more than 3 font styles per design project. Now this is like the basic rule. Do not use more than 3 font styles. One of the most important rules, so that your design do not become rowdy, crowded, so that your designs do not begin to look like it's a except if maybe your objective of your design is maybe you are trying to do a typography art. That's the only exception I think that can come to this rule. If you are making use of a typography art, for example, you are trying to make use of trying to do a letter form design, and you're trying to just do a collage of text from abstract art kind of objective. Okay, like in the previous class I showed us some samples. I don't know if you can remember. You just watch the previous video and you'll be able to understand what I'm trying to say. The examples, there were some slides there that contain typography art. So except in that condition, or except in that case, I advise you do not make use of more than 3 font styles or more than three different font typography or typefaces in your design project. All right, so that you keep it simple and minimize your contrast. Because if you make use of more than three font styles in your design, the contrast will become too much, okay, and you may lose context in your design. Okay, so make sure that you do not make use of more than three font styles. Okay, now step 8 or rule number 8: select fonts that fit the theme of your design. I think this is the last step for this particular video. Select fonts that fit the theme of your design. Okay, select fonts that fit the theme of your design. If you are trying to design something that maybe involves action, you want to depict action, okay, maybe for an action movie poster, for example, you know that you should make use of fonts that look like depict action. Fonts like, say, Turbo. Right? Let me show you what I mean. Fonts like Turbo. It's already leaning in the direction of speed. Okay, so use fonts that align with the theme of your design. So you can see here, this is a wedding is a wedding tag. These are tags designed for a wedding, and you can see here that in this design, the text I use here is I think this is Trajan. Yeah, this is Trajan. Yeah, this is Trajan. Now see here, the text used here is Trajan bold. Okay, and it fits the wedding. You can see the regal approach that is being used here. Okay, you can see how it fits, see how it looks. This is the serif font style. Okay, you can see how the serif font styles are being combined together and they fit so well together. Okay, see how it looks. Okay, so because it's for a wedding, it depicts love, royalty, luxury, and also depicts class. Also because of the caliber of the people that the wedding is for. All right. Now you can see here, action. We move. So you can see how I selected fonts that fits the photo or fits the objective of my design. All right. So thank you very much for staying tuned. We're going to be looking at more topics. Okay, I think the next topic I'm going to be looking at is how to create custom typography for logos, and also to create typography effects. All right. Thanks so much, guys. Till our next tutorial, keep taking a daily dosage of your creative time.